Have you ever ruined your own life? Or, I mean, at least a big goal just by talking about it?
It sounds like an exaggeration,
Yeah.
but when you really look at the mechanics of human behavior,
Hmm.
it is entirely possible.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say it happens every single day.
I want to jump straight into this because, well, the mission for our deep dive today is to unpack this huge paradox. Like, why keeping your boldest plans completely secret might actually be the ultimate strategy for success.
Right, which goes against almost everything we're taught.
Exactly. We are going to look under the hood of goal psychology, examine the language we use around our ambitions, and figure out how to tell if you are genuinely protecting a fragile dream or if you are, just hiding from the hard work.
Which is a very thin line.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why do we feel this overwhelming, almost biological urge to broadcast our plans the absolute second we decide to, like, start a business or get in shape or write a book?
Well, to understand that urge, we really have to look at our evolutionary wiring. For the vast majority of human history, our survival depended entirely on the tribe.
Right. You couldn't just go it alone.
Exactly. If you found a new food source or, you figured out a better way to build a shelter, sharing that information was essential.
So is life or death.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if the tribe validated your contribution, your social status went up, which literally meant your chances of survival went up.
Wow. Okay.
But fast forward to today, and our goals are highly individualistic, right? Like losing 20 pounds or writing a screenplay.
Yeah. Nobody in the tribe is going to die if I don't finish my novel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we are still running on that ancient hardware. When you have a new idea, you experience this beautiful flash, a moment of possibility.
I love that phrase, moment of possibility.
Yeah, because the dream is perfect in that moment. It hasn't collided with reality yet. Naturally, your ancient brain wants the tribe to validate it. You want to share that pure, unblemished potential.
I definitely feel that. But I'm guessing that ancient hardware gets incredibly confused in the modern world.
It does. It really does.
It's like, what is actually happening in my brain when I sit at a coffee shop, text my friend that I'm finally starting a podcast, and they reply with, like, a bunch of fire emojis?
Okay, so that is where a psychological phenomenon called substitution takes over.
Substitution?
Yes. And to grasp substitution, we have to correct a major misconception about dopamine.
Oh, because everyone just thinks it's the happy chemical, right?
Right. People usually think of dopamine as simply a reward chemical. The thing that makes you feel good after eating a piece of cake.
Yeah, exactly.
But neurobiologically, dopamine is actually a molecule of motivation and craving. It is the chemical of pursuit.
Wait, really? So it's not just the reward, it's the drive to get it.
Exactly. It spikes when you anticipate a reward.
Yeah.
And that spike is what pushes you through the agonizing, boring work required to actually, get the reward.
Wait, I think I see where this is going. So when I text my friend about the new project and they tell me I'm a genius for doing it, I'm triggering that dopamine release before I've even, like, purchased a microphone or done any work.
That is the trap
Right.
right there. The brain receives a social reward that perfectly mirrors the reward of actual achievement.
Oh, wow.
Your neural circuitry registers their validation, the fire emojis, the excitement, and it essentially checks a box. It says, mission accomplished. We achieved the status increase within the tribe.
So it substitutes the mere announcement of the goal for the actual execution of the goal.
Precisely. You get the biochemical payoff for doing absolutely nothing.
So by announcing our dreams, we're essentially eating dessert before dinner.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, I've consumed all the sweetness, my brain feels like a total winner, and now the actual work of editing audio, the metaphorical vegetables, just feels like a chore.
Yep.
The drive vanishes because my biology thinks we already crossed the finish line.
And that loss of drive is the first major casualty. You've successfully tricked your own motivational system into shutting down.
That is terrifying.
But wait, the second casualty is identity.
What do you mean by identity?
Well, people become intoxicated by the identity of the person they are claiming to be without having to actually bear the friction of becoming them.
Oh, man. I was reading about a case from a few years ago that illustrates this identity trap perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
So a person decided they were going to write a novel. The very first thing they did, of course, was tell everyone they knew.
Naturally.
Right. They took to Instagram and created this highly curated mood board to capture the, like, aesthetic vibe of this upcoming book.
The aesthetic, right.
Yeah, they started posting photos of their coffee next to an open, blank laptop. They were fielding questions in the comments about their creative process.
Oh, the creative process of staring at a blank screen.
Exactly. They spent over 4 months living entirely inside the identity of a published author.
The ratio of time spent on that mood board versus the actual manuscript must have been
Yeah.
staggering.
It was completely non-existent. Over the course of almost half a year, they wrote exactly 3 paragraphs.
3 paragraphs in 6 months.
3. But I mean, in their mind, they were a writer. They got to wear the costume. They got the applause from their followers. And they completely bypassed the agonizing vulnerability of staring at a blank page and, realizing their writing wasn't very good yet.
And the really tragic part of that story isn't just the lack of pages.
Right.
By making that massive early announcement, they added a suffocating layer of performance anxiety to the whole project.
Yes.
What began as this private, exciting passion suddenly transformed into a public expectation.
It instantly turns a passion into a deadline.
Exactly.
You start dreading the very thing that used to keep you awake with excitement because now you have this audience waiting in the wings. And the audience arrived before the dream even had a chance to grow roots.
And that perfectly transitions us to the external variables. We just broke down the internal sabotage, tricking our own dopamine system.
Right, the inside stuff.
But what happens when that unformed idea leaves the safety of your own head and collides with other people?
Because the world isn't just full of cheerleaders handing out fire emojis, right?
Unfortunately not.
When you share a plan prematurely, you are inevitably going to receive opinions. Specifically, unsolicited opinions from people who have likely never even attempted the thing you are trying to do.
What's fascinating here is that word, unsolicited.
Hmm.
That's the critical part. You're asking people to evaluate a fragile theory instead of a concrete reality.
Oh, that's good.
And a theory is incredibly difficult to defend.
There's a story that always sticks with me about this exact dynamic.
Let's hear it.
So someone decided they wanted to leave their stable corporate job and leap into a freelance career. They were terrified, obviously, but also deeply thrilled by the prospect.
Sure, that moment of possibility.
Right. So they went to Sunday lunch with their family and decided to announce this grand life change. But here is the fatal error.
Uh-oh.
They didn't have a single freelance client lined up yet.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They walked into the dining room and essentially handed their family a microphone to critique a rough draft of their life.
That is a recipe for complete psychological disaster.
It really was.
Because what happens in that dining room is a collision of realities. The family is operating on their own deeply ingrained fears about, stability, the economy, the unknown.
Which is exactly what poured out. Within 10 minutes, this celebratory lunch devolved into a live panel discussion of doubts.
Of course it did.
People were saying things like, what about your health benefits? The market is incredibly unstable right now. Most freelancers quit and go back to corporate within a year, right?
Just throwing all their own anxieties onto the table.
Yes. And the person left that lunch with a knot in their stomach, feeling like they had just made the most reckless decision of their entire life.
And look, we need to view the family's reaction objectively here.
Right. They weren't trying to be mean.
No, those family members were not being malicious. They loved this person. They genuinely believed they were protecting them by pointing out all the risks.
Yeah, it came from love.
But they lacked the self-awareness to realize the psychological damage they were inflicting on a very delicate idea.
I struggle with this, though, because I want to believe I'm, mentally tough enough to brush off my uncle's negativity at Thanksgiving. But you're saying that early negativity fundamentally changes how the brain approaches the goal.
It absolutely does. It alters your cognitive focus.
How so?
Well, when you hear those doubts, especially from people whose opinions hold actual weight in your life, those doubts act like seeds. And doubt thrives in the dark.
Oh, man.
It forces your brain to run these complex simulations of failure that you weren't originally running. Before that Sunday lunch, your mental energy was entirely focused on how to pitch your first client. But after the lunch, your mental energy is drained by arguing with your uncle's voice in your head.
Oh, yeah.
You're defending your decision against some hypothetical scenario where you lose your health insurance and go completely bankrupt.
So we waste our limited bandwidth defending the theory instead of building the reality.
Exactly.
There's a brilliant metaphor for this dynamic that we have to talk about. Imagine your new big goal is a tiny, fragile campfire.
Okay, I like this.
When it's just you out in the woods, you can build it carefully. You cup your hands around it to block the wind. You feed it dry kindling at exactly the right pace. It's small, but it's safe.
But the moment you announce it to the world, a crowd gathers around your little fire.
Yes, and everyone assumes they are an expert at building fires.
Naturally.
Some people mean well, but they toss huge wet logs onto the flame, completely smothering it. Other people are natural skeptics, and they, like, blow the flame sideways with their endless cautions.
Yeah. And some people are just overly anxious.
Exactly. They stand way too close and use up all the oxygen in the area. Suddenly, this tiny fire that just needed quiet protection has turned into a highly stressful group project.
That visualization captures the vulnerability perfectly. When you're just asking people to believe in your potential, you have no empirical evidence to hand to those skeptics.
Right, because you haven't done it yet.
Exactly. You haven't secured the first client. You haven't written the first chapter. You are entirely exposed to the elements.
That brings up a darker question for me, though. We just agreed the family at Sunday lunch wasn't malicious. But,
Yeah.
I mean, is that always the case?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we all have that one friend or colleague who always seems to throw a wet log on the fire, and it really doesn't feel like it's coming from a place of protective love. Why do some people actively want to dim that early flame?
Yeah, this takes us into a more uncomfortable area of human psychology.
Let's go there.
We desperately want to believe that everyone in our lives is rooting for our success in a clean, uncomplicated way. But human nature is heavily driven by social comparison. We unconsciously evaluate our own standing and our own progress by looking at the people immediately around us.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If I tell my peer group that I'm taking a massive leap, what is actually firing in their brains?
Well, your announcement can trigger an acute awareness of their own stagnation.
Stagnation.
Yes. This informal but painfully real condition is often referred to as comparisonitis.
Comparisonitis. Wow.
When you announce a bold new trajectory, your forward momentum acts as a mirror for everyone else. If the people listening have been stuck in the exact same routine for years, or if they are harboring their own unfulfilled ambitions, your sudden progress forces them to confront their own lack of movement.
So because their own fire feels incredibly small in that moment, the instinct is to throw a bucket of water on mine.
Sadly, yes, it is a subconscious defense mechanism designed to preserve their own ego.
That is wild.
Think about it. If you try and fail, or better yet, if they can convince you not to try at all, it validates their decision to remain comfortable.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
And it is crucial to understand that this rarely looks like a cartoon villain plotting your downfall.
Wow.
It manifests in incredibly subtle ways.
Yeah, it's the micro expressions. It's that, like, half-second pause before they respond.
Yes, exactly.
Or that flat, deadpan, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool, where you can literally feel the energy get sucked right out of the room.
Or it comes out as passive-aggressive phrasing, completely disguised as practical advice.
Right.
Like, are you sure you have the background for that?
Yeah.
I mean, the economy is really tough right now for startups.
Right.
They're actively projecting their own limitations onto your potential.
And because we are so wired for social connection, that lack of energy, that subtle rejection, it completely infects us. It lives rent-free in our heads.
Always.
Every time I hit a roadblock in my new venture, my brain is going to flash back to that half-second pause.
Absolutely.
But, let me push back on this entire premise for a second.
Okay, go for it.
If the world is full of wet logs and our own brains are trying to trick our dopamine systems and our friends are secretly suffering from comparisonitis, do we just isolate ourselves? Do I become a hermit, lock myself in a cabin, and never speak a word of my dreams to another living soul?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the most important pushback to address, because the answer is absolutely not.
Okay, good, because that sounds awful.
Right. Complete isolation sets you up for a completely different kind of failure. If keeping quiet becomes an absolute rigid rule, we run a massive risk of using protect. You aren't protecting the dream. You are hiding because you are terrified of being seen trying. Effort is inherently vulnerable. When you try, you might fail, and people might witness that failure.
Which is terrifying.
So keeping a goal a secret forever guarantees you never have to face the humiliation of a public misstep.
So how do we tell the difference? Like, if you are listening to this right now, evaluating your own secret goals, how do you know if you are practicing discipline by staying quiet or if you are just hiding from the work?
The defining metric is action. That is the only distinction that matters.
Action.
If you are quiet, but you are taking small, consistent steps every single day, If you are reading, researching, writing, building, practicing, that is protection. Your silence is actively serving the dream.
Right.
But if you are quiet and you are doing absolutely nothing, that is hiding. Silence should never become a comfortable room where your goals slowly suffocate.
So action validates the silence.
Wisely.
But I hear this argument constantly. People will say, well, if I don't tell the world I'm running a marathon, I'll never train for it. I need the pressure.
Yes.
What about the people who say they require an audience to stay on track?
That argument stems from a fundamental confusion between seeking validation and seeking accountability.
Oh, interesting.
They sound very similar,
Yeah.
but they're polar opposites in practice. Posting day one of my marathon training on social media with a perfectly lit gym selfie, that is seeking validation.
Right.
The people double tapping that photo have zero stake in your success. They aren't going to check on you on a rainy Tuesday morning at 5 a.m., but your brain still gets that early dopamine hit we talked about earlier.
It's empty calories for your motivation.
Exactly.
It feels good for 5 minutes, but it doesn't sustain you. So what does real accountability look like then?
Accountability requires vulnerability, not an audience. It is telling one specific, trusted person.
Just one.
Maybe it's a friend who already runs marathons. You tell them because you know they have the expertise to understand the struggle, and you know they will actually text you at 5 a.m. to ask if you put your running shoes on. Accountability includes the very real risk of disappointing someone you respect. Validation carries no such risk.
One is a performance for an audience. The other is a structural support system designed to keep you honest.
Yes, beautiful way to put it.
That completely shifts the paradigm for me. The strategy isn't secrecy at all. The strategy is selectivity.
Selectivity, yes.
You are choosing the right person at the right time for the right reason. You don't owe the world a preview of the person you are becoming.
You don't owe them a preview, and honestly, you shouldn't give them one until you have momentum.
Momentum.
This is the crux of the entire approach. Waiting to share until you actually have something tangible to show. Think back to that Sunday lunch freelance story.
The panel of doubt.
Right. What if that person had waited? What if they spent 3 months quietly building a website, securing 2 small clients, and maybe getting a few testimonials before they made the announcement?
The entire conversation at the table shifts.
Completely.
The family members couldn't poke holes in a theory because it wouldn't be a theory anymore. The person could just say, look, I'm doing this, and here's the money I've already made.
Exactly. When you have momentum, when you have early, undeniable results, it acts as an armor against doubt.
Wow.
You aren't asking people to blindly believe in your potential. You are showing them a reality that is already in motion. Results speak a language that doubt simply cannot translate.
Results speak a language that doubt cannot translate. I love that. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We have covered massive ground today.
We really have.
We explored the evolutionary trap of your dopamine system, substituting applause for actual achievement. We looked at how unsolicited opinions throw wet logs on your fragile campfire. And of course, the uncomfortable truth of comparisonitis.
Which is very real.
Very real. We also drew a hard line between hiding in fear and protecting your momentum through daily action. The core takeaway is clear. Your dreams need deep, quiet roots long before they need an audience.
They require a foundation of uncelebrated, invisible work.
Yes. So here is our challenge to you. Look at your own life today. Identify one goal, one project, or one dream that you have been talking about more than you have actually been building.
We all have one.
We definitely all do. Take that goal and replace the urge to announce it with one quiet action. Don't post about it. Don't text your group chat. Just write one page, take one walk, send one email, prove to yourself that the machinery is actually moving.
And as you take that action, consider this final thought. We have spent this deep dive focusing on protecting your plans from the doubts and the stagnation of other people.
Right.
But what if the person you most need to hide your plans from isn't your family or your friends? What if the person you must hide from is the version of yourself that is addicted to instant gratification?
Oh.
If you deliberately starve your own ego of that early social validation, you might actually force yourself to fall in love with the unglamorous, quiet process of the work itself.